What's good, Atlanta? This is the Blog and Dirty podcast, where Dirty Bird is the word if you haven't heard. I'm your host, John Buhler, lead writer, fanside.com. Got a little show for you guys today. A lot of stuff has happened in the lead up to the NFL draft. We got Julio Jones retiring. We got Kirk Cousins stuff. We got Michael Penix Jr. stuff. We got TJ Watt stuff. We got so many things to talk about here on a Friday. I know I said I was going to be here on a Wednesday, but life happens and scheduling conflict. I plan to be on the show again on Wednesday next week and the week after that. Shortly after the draft, I'm going to be out of town. We'll do a post-draft sort of wrap-up thing, I think on Friday or something like that. I'll coordinate with producer Sean and see what we're going to do here. But I was late to the punch with this last week, but I got to do this justice. We got to start by remembering a dude. Yes, Julio Jones has retired after 13 seasons in the NFL, mostly with your Atlanta Falcons. Totally forgot that he played for half these teams. So I know that he went to like the Titans. Distinctly remember that. I know he was on the Bucks. Totally forgot he was on the Eagles, but he spent the bulk of his time here in Atlanta. What an incredible player. One of my peers, fellow 89er, a little bit older than me, not by much, but I just want to make sure I can do this justice before we get on to more relevant newsier stuff here that's going on in the day-to-day. But it's very rare when you see a player come into the league be as good as advertised, and if not even more. So Julio Jones, I knew him. He was one of the first players to really kind of make the turn with Nick Saban, Alabama. Again, we're the same age. Nick Saban, Alabama really took off when we were freshmen. And so he was at Alabama 08, 09, 10, and then he came to the Falcons in 11 as number 6 overall pick. What you have to remember is back then, Atlanta was the number 1 seed in the 2010 NFL season. They lost at home in the divisional round to the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, who went on to win the Super Bowl. That was a year where it kind of felt like we squandered it in some ways. That's the Falcons. That's what we do. But it became very apparent that they needed to get more explosive at receiver. Roddy White was still in the peak of his prime, but again, he's kind of more of a physical possession guy. Obviously, Tony Gonzalez can move the sticks to tight end, but he was getting up there in age. Michael the Burner Turner still doing his thing. Matt Ryan was still a young player. So they needed to get a receiver that could stretch the field a little bit. And because you won the division, you're picking in the 20s. The Falcons somehow convinced the Cleveland Browns to trade back, and they took Julio Jones 6. What you have to remember is also, I'm a University of Georgia alum, and one of my peers, one of my the guys I went to school with, AJ Green, was also in that draft. It kind of felt that those two wide receivers were can't miss. I may have been more partial to AJ Green given my Georgia allegiances and everything like that, but he went number 4 to the Bengals, had a fantastic career, caught a lot of passes from Andy Dalton, should be in the Hall of Fame. But I don't know if he was ever as impactful as Julio Jones was here in Atlanta. Admittedly, I was a little skeptical when he came here initially. Why would I not be? I hated Alabama at the time. They won all the time and created Georgia suffering. But I knew his talent was immense. And it became very apparent once he came here that this guy was special. The one thing that yes, I wish we would have won a Super Bowl with him. And I hate the fact that Dan Quinn and Kyle Shanahan cost Julio Jones and Matt Ryan what was rightfully theirs. I also kind of wish that, he was able to stay healthy in the 13th season. Again, he broke his leg, had to have a screw put in there. It still played phenomenally for years here in Atlanta, for about 10 years. Kind of wonder like how impressive his numbers would have been, how much better the team would have been. Maybe the Mike Smith era would have been allowed to continue if it wasn't for the awful, 13 and 14 seasons back to back. But probably the best way that I could describe Julio Jones was he was about the work. This is a guy who was like no nonsense. I mean, I feel like he treated football like a job, and he that's what made him so good as a wide receiver. I mean, like, I don't necessarily know if football is really a hobby, outside of work. I don't really know how much he watches it. He's got other interests. I know he has like car dealerships. He's got other things he likes to do. But like when he was here and he was in Flowery Branch and he was in the Benz and he was in the Dome, he was ready to work. And I felt that like his work ethic rubbed off on so many other people. And that's what made him so great. Yes, he had immense talent. Yes, he was a blue chipper coming out of high school, fully Alabama, same alma mater that produced Ken Stabler, fellow Alabama and NFL icon with the Raiders, most notably. But Julio Jones was the kind of guy that, like, when you have him on your team, you're set. You know that when he's out there, he's going to make plays. He's just going to be an absolute nightmare to cover. The other thing that I loved about Julio Jones was he pivoted. He adapted his game. He was more of a vertical threat initially. Obviously, the foot injury kind of slowed him down a little bit. Then he became a very physical possession receiver. I could always trust when Matt Ryan would throw him the ball that he was going to come up with it. I could always trust that, on third down, he could be the guy like Roddy White was. He learned a lot from Roddy White. He made a lot of players on this team better. Obviously, being a mega talent like that, it's hard to like coach up other people because like you can't like translate talent. What works for you may not work for somebody else. But I never felt that when he was in Atlanta that he thought he was better than anybody else. I always felt that he was like one of the guys that he was always grateful and appreciative to have help on any team he was a part of. And I think the rapport that he had with Matt Ryan from 11 to 2020 was one of the best quarterback wide receiver combinations in NFL history. It's going to get Julio Jones into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot in 2030, and hopefully gets Matt Ryan in there sooner rather than later. Probably not going to be the first ballot, but I think they would both say that they're not going to Canton without each other. Matt Ryan is not winning NFL MVP without Julio Jones. Julio Jones is not an all-decade player without Matt Ryan. They were two of the absolute greatest players in Atlanta Falcons history. I'll touch on that here in a second about where they rank, so to speak. But like, you have to give, for example, like we're Falcons fans. We know who we are. We know what our lot in life is in the NFL. We've had great players come through here, but very, very rarely have we had a truly transcendent, undeniable talent. Like Deion Sanders may be the only other guy that I could probably equate to it. Maybe Chris Lindstrom could become that if he keeps playing at this high level at guard. But again, it's a non-sexy position like cornerback or wide receiver. With Matt Ryan, I always felt like I had to defend him. I was like, I don't think you guys understand what we're dealing with on a regular basis as a franchise and what he has to overcome. With Julio Jones, it was simply undeniable. Best of luck in retirement, bud. I loved watching you play. I loved covering you, and you made the team that we like and support better. More importantly, you were very ATL, and I will always respect that. One more Julio comment or one more thing that I want to do. Let's blow the whistle or blow the whistle. Is Julio Jones the greatest player in Atlanta Falcons history? I'm going to blow the whistle now. Most talented, yeah, I would say he's right up there with Julio Jones, but I think that honor goes to Matt Ryan, and I think anybody who's followed this team and is honest with themselves would agree with me. There's two reasons why I would say that it's Matt Ryan over Julio Jones. Three reasons. One, I think that the leadership that Matt Ryan has to have at the quarterback position is just far greater than what Julio had to do at wide receiver. It's not his fault. It's just the position he plays. That's just what Matt Ryan is asked to do. It's just more than what Julio was. And that's just all things equal. You're going to give it to a quarterback over a wide receiver because of that. The second part is, I got to be straight up with you. The breakup with him was humiliating, and it still stings. Obviously, I don't know if Shannon Sharp really set him up for failure on Undisputed, but like he said that he wanted to get out of Atlanta once Arthur Smith was there. They traded him to the Titans. Then his career kind of fell to the wayside after that. It was really embarrassing. It was really hurtful, and I still think that there's some parts of Dirty Bird Nation who may not ever forgive him for that. Again, like, we eventually come around on Michael Vick. We've come around on Deion Sanders. Look, that was kind of more of like Taylor Smith being like, look, we're incompetent. We don't know what we're doing. Go get the bag with the 49ers and become the star that we always knew you could be. I wish Julio Jones would have only played for the Falcons like Roddy White did, like Matt Ryan should have. But I still think that the breakup with him going to the Titans was, it was a dark mark on his legacy here. Probably the only thing really negative I could say about him. Other than that, he was a tad injury prone. I would have loved him to get more touchdowns. I think he only had 66 in his career, but one of the best wide receivers of all time, without question. And I would say the biggest reason why I would say it's Matt Ryan over Julio Jones, again, it's 1 and 2. And I don't even care who 3 at this point is. It may be Deion Sanders, probably not. Probably Tommy Nobis. I think that guy should be in Canton as well. He'd only get in posthumously playing for some sad bag of crack Falcons teams in the 60s out of Texas. I think that he deserves to get in Canton too at some point. But the biggest reason why it's Matt Ryan over Julio Jones is it comes down to this. Every single offensive weapon who played with Matt Ryan made them better, and they were worse off not playing for him. And Julio Jones falls into that category too. You look at everyone, every single player that played with Matt Ryan in Atlanta from 08 to 21, they had their best years with him. Roddy White, Julio Jones. Tony Gonzalez is a little bit of an exception, but again, it's just at a very high level too. Michael the Burner Turner, Austin Hooper, Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman, running backs, tight ends, wide receivers, Harry Douglas, every single one of them was better because of Matt Ryan. And everyone's going to be like, oh, he doesn't have a Super Bowl. Oh, he only has 4 Pro Bowls. You can kiss my ass. This guy is one of the best players of all time. Where you land matters. And being able to overcome dysfunction is something that I don't think enough people give enough credit for. Everyone's like, oh, let's put Eli Manning in the Hall of Fame. Eli Manning doesn't hold a candle to Matt Ryan. Neither does Philip Rivers. He's simply better than them. So this is not to be a slight on Julio Jones. He is not the greatest player in Atlanta Falcons history. It's Matt Ryan going away, and it's not even remotely close. That being said, I have so much respect for Julio Jones. I have so much respect for that era of Falcons football. It's like a 1A, 1B thing, but it's Matt Ryan. Let's stop lying to ourselves. And we need to stop lying to ourselves about this next topic with somebody you like that. Kirk Cousins is probably not going to sign with the Cleveland Browns. After the Joe Flacco signing, I guess Kirk Cousins is not going to waive his trade clause to the Browns. So where does this leave Atlanta and the Falcons? This sucks. There's really no way to describe it. Really set my Friday morning off in a frenzy. I saw the Adam Schefter tweet that Joe Flacco is going back to the Browns after spending a year with the Colts. I believe it's a 1-year, $4 million deal with $13 million baked into incentives. Look, the Browns were always going to go with the stopgap quarterback to bridge the gap out of the Deshaun Watson catastrophe. I would take Shedeur Sanders at 2 if I were them, but I think the allure of Abdul Carter at 2, knowing that the Titans are probably going to take Cam Ward, you got to take him. If you take Travis Hunter, I'm going to pull all my long blonde hair out. I don't see it. He's got to pick a position, a mega talent. I know he's from here. I know he played Collins Hill. I know he was kind of looking at Georgia, FSU, Deion to his core. But Joe Flacco to the Browns makes sense. He's won there. Kevin Stefanski knows him. They can trust him. This is a guy that I think Myles Garrett and the rest of the Browns can rally behind. But this does put the Falcons behind the 8 ball here. Look, I think that they're a lot more content with Cousins being a high-priced backup. I think it's untenable. I think it's going to create a chaotic locker room mess. We don't make the playoffs. Heads are going to roll, and we're going to be dealing with another few more years to get us to a decade of perpetual dysfunction. Please stop. I'm so done with this. Look, right now, the only team that I can say that has a shot at trading for Cousins at this point is probably the Steelers. But the Steelers are going to pick Kirk Cousins over Aaron Rodgers, or they're going to pick someone like Jackson Dart. Maybe Shedeur Sanders falls to them. So, I figure one of those 4 quarterbacks. You also have Mason Rudolph in the building who you know and trust to some degree to bridge the gap if you need to go in that direction. But this pretty much removes Cousins from the equation, even more so than Shedeur Sanders going to Cleveland. This was the team that we thought, okay, that's who Cousins is probably going to get traded to. Cleveland's got the assets to potentially make a deal. I think Andrew Berry saw it differently. I think just sitting on that, just the whole offseason of what are we going to do? Deshaun Watson's just locker room cancer. He's not a good person. He can't play anymore, and he's always hurt. We got to get through this. The guy has the same amount of self-awareness as Russell Westbrook, Russell Wilson, Russell Brand, and Russell Hammond. His middle name might as well be Russell. It's Deshaun because his first name's Derek. Yes, I know that. Anyway, I look at Cousins. This is a reality check, and I know he probably wants an opportunity to start somewhere else. He got paid. I think just being a good teammate. You also have to remember this. for as much as we are hyped on Michael Penix Jr., he is a tad injury prone. He played 6 years in college for a reason. You had the waiver. You also had the injuries at IU leading into him at UW. Honestly, like another year in the system, knowing what Zach Robinson's going to do, I'm a little bit more okay with Cousins being the backup than I was. I think that they just have to like put egos aside and be the best thing for this team. I mean, we've seen teams that have had injuries to their quarterback go on to do great things. I mean, Trent Green went down to make Kurt Warner a legend. Dak Prescott emerged in the wake of Tony Romo getting hurt. Obviously, Brett Favre doesn't happen without Don Majkowski getting hurt. This happens. Football's a game of injury. And I know this is a little bit different. You're trying to insert like, Penix in there and then Cousins, like, okay, maybe back him up. But like, look at the 49ers. Who knew that they had this in Brock Purdy? I thought he'd be okay, but he was Mr. Irrelevant for a reason. They thought it was going to be Trey Lance over Jimmy Garoppolo, and it was Brock Purdy. Now they got to pay him. But that's the other thing. The Falcons do not have to pay Michael Penix Jr. right now. They've got him on year 2 of his rookie deal. They're going to give him the 5th-year option, so they've got time to figure this out. It becomes far less punitive to move on from Cousins after this upcoming season than it would be this year. Maybe you can do a little more cap space. We'll see if Terry Fontenot's still running the team at this point, or if Raheem Morris is still the head coach. A lot of concerning things going on here with the Falcons. But the Cousins thing, it basically means with Flacco signing to the Browns, it signifies to us that there's one less place that he could go to. I don't necessarily know if that's going to create leverage for the Falcons. Maybe that was all fabricated to begin with. But I would honestly say that for the most part, we just got to accept the fact that he might be on the team. We'll see what happens after the draft. And if the Steelers just don't draft Dart or Sanders or anybody, then maybe they trade for him. But like you can't be banking on that. All the while, like the Falcons made it a point to not interview anybody at the scouting combine who plays offense. So who's your backup quarterback going to be if you trade Cousins? I thought it'd be Jameis Winston. I thought he'd be a great fit here. Fun, kind of feels ATL in some ways, but he's on the Giants. Maybe he gets released. The point is, like, we have to kind of accept that the reality is Cousins is probably going to be on this team next year, for better or worse, and we need to move on. We need to focus in on what the future is with Michael Penix Jr., and we also need to figure out, more importantly, what the hell we're going to do on defense. Almost swore there. But, yeah, this has been a very tumultuous and chaotic morning for me. The Friday, it should be, coasting of the weekend here. It's Friday. Some days they don't care. I saw the Flacco news and I'm like, oh crap, I got to write some stuff. I got to pivot the concept of this show on the fly a little bit. But again, initially I was going to talk about Cousins, but I didn't feel that there was really anything palpable. But now with the Browns out of the equation, I feel like I had to. So right now I feel like it's going to be either the Falcons, maybe the Steelers, but look for number 8 to return to Atlanta for another year. Maybe he's 18. I don't remember. Who cares? It's Penix time anyway. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to inject ourselves with some big Penix energy to move on to the second half of our show. Justin Simmons has some rave reviews when it comes to Penix's awesome talent. He was on, I believe, make sure I got this right. He was on Up and Adams earlier in the week. He's still a free agent. He probably said he'd be open to coming back to the Falcons. We'll see what happens. I think it's more likely that he goes to the Eagles to reunite with his former Broncos head coach, Vic Fangio, who's still calling plays on that side of the ball for the defending Super Bowl champions. But very astute of Kay Adams to ask about Penix. Just you're curious. And she asked him like what his early impressions of Penix were. And for a quote from Pro Football Talk, it says, hat tip to Pro Football Talk. I don't know. Whatever. I don't know. I hate how sometimes the editors mess with my stuff, but it was his third day of practice, literally his third day of being here. Penix was running second team reps going up against the second team defense. And he had this no look throw down to the sideline right into, it was probably the craziest throw that Simmons had ever seen in person. He's like, oh, whatever he has it. So he's excited to see what he does. What you have to remember is Simmons was a very late signing to the Falcons. I mean, he signed right around training camp a little bit. It was basically between the Falcons and Saints. He signed with the Falcons. This is right around the time of the Matthew Judon trade with the Patriots, which we gave up our third round pick for 5 sacks. So yeah, good job there, Terry. Anyway, I think like what I always appreciate is NFL players know if a guy can play or not. They know right away. Maybe you would like, oh, I was hoping that it wasn't like the third day, but like, you've got the okay, new team. Okay, I'm coming in late. I got to learn this new defense. Okay, we got Cousins over here, and there's a backup. So maybe Simmons is trying, like his head's swimming a little bit with his new team. But then he goes over there and he sees Penix. And again, I don't know how much this former Boston College star like watches college football, but like you see it. And I think the really the big thing that I really want to touch on here is I think the people on the Falcons, I think they knew very early that the better quarterback for this team long term was Penix. And the middle of the season, they're still trotting out Cousins. He played very well in September and October, but then after Halloween, he turned into a pumpkin, and that was not good for anybody at all. And obviously, they made the move when they could. I mean, the earliest you probably could have done it was like the Raiders game, which we won anyway because the Raiders are incompetent. But like just the way how poorly Cousins played versus the Chargers, how embarrassing he looked in his return back to Minneapolis. Maybe that was the time that you could make the move. And I don't know if it was like too little or too late. We were in it till the very end. Jimmy Lake's defense cost our former Washington quarterback an opportunity at leading a playoff team because we couldn't keep anybody off the field. Some Washington crime, if you will. I got to take a sip of coffee here and regroup here for a second. Been talking like out of my mind for 23 minutes here. There's nothing worse than when that's not warm. Like when it's cold coffee. I like my food at the temperature it's supposed to be served at. I want my hot food hot and I want my cold food cold. So I'm willing to get brain freezes and burn the roof of my mouth. I don't want lukewarm crap. Because I cover lukewarm crap here with the Atlanta Falcons. Just a perpetual 7, 10, 8, 9 mess. I know we can be better. And I don't want us to be worse. We got to keep moving forward. I just feel like with Penix, more so than maybe anybody in this first round, outside of Jaden Daniels, who I think is the best quarterback in that draft. And that's why he went to the Commanders. And that's why I'm not ruling out the idea that Washington may win the NFC next year. That's kind of my early pick right now. But like, there's something that Penix has that I don't know if the other 4 quarterbacks that I've not mentioned possess. Again, I'm very down on J.J. McCarthy, probably my least favorite prospect who went in the first round last year. I feel he's got a long way to go. I kind of feel that he was propped up by Harbaugh. The fact that the Vikings are not like saying this is 100% our guy leads me to believe that he may not be. Drake May, I wonder if he's got that dog in him. He's got to overcome perpetual dysfunction there in New England. Immensely talented, but I wonder if he's really locked in upstairs. I think Caleb Williams is a head case. I think that Ben Johnson's over his skis and is not ready for what's about to hit him in Chicago. Caleb Williams, probably the most talented player in the draft, but like I don't trust his mental makeup or his character at all. And then Bo Nix, very high floor, very low ceiling. He went to the perfect place for him in Denver. A lot of starts there at Oregon and Auburn. That's what's kind of going on here. But with Penix, I kind of felt that of those 6 quarterbacks, I don't want to go to the whole he's a winner sort of thing, but I feel that like if there's a play that you need to make it in crunch time, I trust him to do it a little bit more than the other 5. Look, I know Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels won the Heisman, but neither of those teams made the playoff. Washington did. Washington played in a national championship game. Bo Nix kind of shrinks in some of those spots. Drake May never gets to be in those spots. And then J.J. McCarthy, I know he won national championships and everything. He actually beat Penix, but like how much of that's Harbaugh? How much of that's the Michigan brand? Michigan should have won a playoff with that core. Washington was just kind of happy to be there. And that's testament to Penix. I think he's the ultimate foxhole guy. I think what he's going to do in this offense is going to be absurd. I think he's going to make Kyle Pitts an immensely better player. I don't know what the rapport he's going to have with Darnell Mooney, if it's going to equate to what Cousins had with him, but seems to be lockstep there with London, Bijan, Algier, and the rest of the offense. I think a guy who's a seasoned perennial Pro Bowler, high-end player for a very long time like Justin Simmons to speak this positively about Penix makes me feel very excited about the future for what this quarterback could be. Again, like Julio Jones to tie it back, Penix feels very ATL. I mean, I know he's from Tampa. I know he played his college football in Bloomington, Indiana, and Seattle, Washington, but he feels like a guy that he feels like a Falcon. And we've been such a fractured fan base for so long. I think we just need to find some way to be united, be unified, and get through this and get back to being a serious team worth talking about on a national scope beyond what the hell are we doing? Penix is one of those players that people gravitate to. It's not just his name. It's not just his play. It's what he's got going on upstairs in terms of leadership. I think that this guy has the potential to be an absolute superstar. I cannot wait to see what he does next year and beyond. I'm so excited for Michael Penix Jr. You have no idea. Moving on to our penultimate topic here. We're going to put a dude on our team, bro. This is wishful thinking. I know I was all in on Trey Hendrickson possibly getting traded to the Falcons, but there were some rumors about TJ Watt not necessarily being happy there in Pittsburgh. The Falcons are one of the few teams with halfway decent odds to potentially trade for the Steelers edge rusher. If we beat the Steelers in week 1, maybe we're in the playoffs. TJ Watt decided that we weren't. That man single-handedly blew up our game plan. Wrecked Kirk Cousins, allowed Justin Fields to win in the Benz in the Arthur Smith revenge game that we didn't win. This all stems from an Instagram photo where TJ Watt was wearing a Steelers uniform and did this. Peace out. And everybody freaked out. They're like, oh my God, is he retiring? Oh my God, does he want to get traded? And I think it signifies that he wants a new contract. Look, he should be a Falcon. We messed up. Thomas Dimitroff messed up. He took Tack McKinley and his grandma's portrait over him. This guy's last name is Watt. His brother is one of the greatest players in NFL history. He played at Wisconsin. This was fail-safe. He was still there, and you didn't take him. What are you doing? It's probably the dumbest thing that Thomas Dimitroff ever did besides that and taking Prairie Jerry over Clay Matthews III. Again, what are we doing? We have no idea what we're doing with pass rushers, and I'm so scared. But you know what? I would bet that TJ Watt would overcome our nonsense more so than him regressing to the mean of being a 5-sack edge rusher with the Falcons. I'm going to look this up, make sure I got this absolutely correct here. I believe NFL writer Marcus Mosher had it out there with the updated odds from Bet Online for what could Watt's next franchise to be. So we have the New England Patriots at minus 300, Seahawks minus 400, Eagles minus 500, Cardinals minus 600, Titans minus 700, Chargers minus 800, Falcons minus 900, Colts minus 1,000, Commanders minus 1,200, and Cowboys minus 1,400. Obviously, Marcus Mosher listed the Cowboys because that's his team. So I wrote about this, and I'm like, okay, as a semi-unbiased observer of this, obviously with Falcons leanings, I consume the NFL through the lens of a tortured Falcons fan. What of those 10 teams, if Watt were to be traded, where is he going to go? So I immediately, and please read this at fanside.com if you will. I think this is it's a good idea. I crossed off the Cowboys first because I don't think they're going to be a contending team. I think they're going to be fighting for last place in the NFC East with the Giants. They're looking up at the Commanders and Eagles. Lowest odds. They haven't been to an NFC championship game since the Clinton administration. Every team in the NFC has been there more recently than them. I feel like that's a waste of everybody's time. The next two teams that I crossed off were the Patriots and the Eagles. I just doubt that the Steelers are going to trade Watt to the Patriots given their history. I know the Patriots aren't very good, but I think that those wounds are still fresh. Eagles, this is the Super Bowl champion that's in state. I understand this is AFC and NFC, but optically that looks terrible. I don't think that that's a team. The next two teams I crossed off were the Colts and Titans. I felt that the Colts did not have the best odds right now to get him. I think that they're kind of trying to figure out if they're going to make the playoffs or not. The Titans, they have better odds, but they're not ready to compete. I feel that there's better teams equipped. Also, the fact that they're both in the AFC, and again, the Steelers they'd have to give up more to get Watt from the Steelers. So I crossed them off. Then I crossed the Falcons off next. Again, I think the odds are decent, but I don't know. I just don't think that Terry Fontenot is going to make it happen. And then I cross off the Arizona Cardinals, who I think that it just depends on what TJ Watt's older brother, JJ Watt, has to say about the Cardinals organization. Again, he spent the final 2 years of his career there. They were kind of good one year and they were not good another. We know the Bidwells can be a little bit meddling or whatnot as owners. So like that's something to consider. So it could kind of go either way. The three teams that I thought make the most sense for him were the Seahawks, the Chargers, and the Commanders, who I think are my favorite. I don't care that they're minus 1,200 to get him. Dan Quinn knows what he's doing with pass rushers. This is a team that's ready to compete and contend for a Super Bowl. I don't know if Seattle's quite right there. The Chargers are probably the best and most likely team to trade for him in the AFC, given where they are in their competitive life cycle. Jesse Minter is still the defensive coordinator under Jim Harbaugh. This is a team that I think can contend with the Chiefs for AFC West supremacy, but like they're the Chargers and they're the Chiefs, and they can't quite get there. So as much as I would love to see TJ Watt be on this team, like the Falcons are going to have to give up number 15 in next year's first round pick to make this happen and then extend him. I think that like maybe he'd fit in here. Maybe he'd be jazzed to play for Raheem Morris and Jeff Ulbrich and everything like that. But like, if you're not a Falcons fan, do you really think that he's going to come here? No. I mean, maybe he'd be like our version of John Abraham, somehow leaving the Jets to come to the Falcons. It'd be amazing. Our pass rushing issues would be no more. I mean, he's already on a Hall of Fame trajectory. He's already pushing 30, if not already there. But like, this would solidify him being an all-time great to help the team that has no clue how to rush a passer finally be able to do that. God, I loved him to be on this team, but like, I just doubt it at this stage of the game. I think he's going to re-up and get a new contract with the team. He deserves it. But if the Steelers continue to play with their food and he leaves as the heartbeat of their franchise, maybe him and Cam Hayward, I think they took care of him, but if they don't take care of Watt, they're not taking care of themselves. And that maybe actually be for the best news long-term with the Steelers. You got to get rid of Mike Tomlin. I'm so done with him. I'm so done with this. This is a colossal waste of everyone's time. This is more of a waste of the time than like the latter part of Bobby Cox with the Braves, with all those empty calorie nonsense NL banners. Love them in retrospect, but how many playoff series wins did you have after 2001? All right, moving on to our final topic here today. We're going to have another slice of pumpkin pie on April 11th because it's all about Mel Kiper Jr. in the draft. Guy loves him. It's all filler and no killer with him. Oh man, he loves that feeling with that. But Daniel Jeremiah said the 2025 NFL draft will be a starter draft. This is just what the doctor ordered for Terry Fontenot. So please don't mess this up. This is not a draft where there's a lot of blue chip all-time talent. The only player that I would say like cannot bust for sure is Abdul Carter. And he's going to go in the top 3. He's going to probably go to the Browns at 2, maybe the Giants at 3. And I doubt that he's going to go to the Titans at 1 because they really want Cam Ward. But yeah, Abdul Carter is the one guy that can't miss in this draft. I'm also a really big fan of a defensive lineman, Mason Graham out of Michigan. I think he's going to go somewhere in the 5 or 6 range. Probably Jacksonville, maybe the Raiders if somebody screws up. I know people are really in on Travis Hunter. I'm not so much, but I could be wrong here. Tyler Warren could be the next freak at tight end. Wide receivers, not really. I mean, I like Ted McMillan a little bit. Maybe Egbuka could be a good player, but like, who knows? But there's a lot of guys in here, particularly, in the trenches. You got Kelvin Banks Jr., Armand Membu, Will Campbell on offensive line. These could be 10-year starters in the league. You're looking at edge rushers here. You got Jalen Walker and Mike Williams from my beloved Georgia Bulldogs, Kenneth Grant out of Michigan, James Pierce Jr., Shamar Stewart, who I think is tied to the Falcons more than anybody else, Mike Green out of Marshall. Then you got JTT and Jack Sawyer probably coming off the board here in the second round. 2 very high-end players. Love to draft them, to be honest with you. Just double down, just figure it out. But, like, this is what I'm talking about. This is the most critical draft that Terry Fontenot has ever had. This is the 5th one he's doing. He's had to have learned from his mistakes by now. He's gone offense with his first 4 first-round picks. He's taken a lot of flack from Kyle Pitts, who is the only player still on the Falcons from the 21 draft. Kind of a big whiff there. Obviously, letting Drew Dalman walk was not. I mean, that was a decision they decided to make. Like, I think for the money, we can get the same level of production out of Ryan Neusel. We'll see what happens. So I'm not going to say that was a bust. That was just a mismanagement of the situation. 22, you get Drake London. 23, you get Bijan Robinson. 24, you get Michael Penix Jr. You gotta nail this number 15 pick. You gotta go defense. And I know Fontenot is a former defensive back. He played for Tulane. He grew up in the Saints front office that's drafted well on that side of the ball, more so than us. Even if you go defensive back, even if you were to go with like Malachi Starks out of Georgia at safety or Will Johnson out of Michigan, that works. But I think everybody is looking at the Falcons like they're going to get somebody on the defensive line or somebody, out on the edge to maybe give this team a pass rush for once. But like, we don't need to be hitting home runs. We don't need to be the Atlanta Braves. We need to play small ball a little bit. We need some, timely hitting. We need to hit the ball in the gaps. We don't need to be throwing 4 verts on every down like it's a Madden game. We need to move the sticks, like Daniel Jeremiah's name. That's what it's all about. We got to be smart here. This is where your teams win or lose more often. If you draft well, then you're not sifting through the bargain basement bin in free agency, hoping to get somebody else's stuff that they don't want anymore. If you draft well, then, you've got the incentive to keep the guy here. He's got an attachment to this team. He may not want to leave in free agency, all things equal. I mean, obviously money talks, and that's what happens. You draft well, and you have more good players on your team. You can get better coaches, better people to work for you. It's an easier sell across the board because you have to remember every team is like a third different from the year before. The rosters turn over. Some teams turn over more, but like the Eagles are going to lose people, just like the Titans are going to lose people. This is the NFL. This is what it's all about. But if you don't draft well, then you got to find other ways to fill out your roster. You may make a trade that may compromise you. You may pay a premium for a good but not great player. You may have to whiff on take big swings in a free agency, but you got to be smart. You got to be methodical. You've only got 5 picks. Maybe you acquire more by trading back and getting a little bit better value to recoup losing the 3rd round pick to the Patriots for the Matthew Judon trade, or to get back the 5th round pick you lost for tampering, try and get Kirk Cousins, Darnell Mooney, and Charlie Werner. But like, if you only got 5 picks, you got to make the most of them. We're looking for starters, not superstars, because if you get more starters, then your other starters have a chance of becoming superstars. That was a lot of fun. Talked a lot here, but be sure to watch, like, comment, and subscribe to the Blog and Dirty Podcast on YouTube. You can follow me, John Buhler, on Twitter or the X at Buhler118. You can subscribe and follow to the show on YouTube at Blog and Dirty FS. You can follow Blog and Dirty on Twitter at Blog and Dirty. Be sure to read all of my content there on fanside.com. Be sure to read all of the content for the Falcons on blogandirty.com. You can also check out some good stuff our regional betting network does on ATL Day, my first site. Again, read anything you can find on Fanside and any platform. We've got a lot of really talented people. Again, I'm a week removed from coming back from our offsite meeting in Phoenix, and we've leveled up as a company. We've got a lot of really talented people. All of our new hires seem to be very sharp. A lot of people who are in the same roles have become masters at the craft, and people like myself who have been promoted have earned that opportunity to have a bigger voice and be a bigger part of this company. But we're building something special here at Fanside across the board. We're building something special here with Blog and Dirty. We're rapidly approaching 300 subscribers. We've got a long runway. I'd love to be able to get to 500 before the start of the season. And I can't do this without you guys. Again, I got to be more empathetic. I got to be, more excited about talking to you. We're in this together. There are no bandwagon fans left. I mean, I know there's some people who are Browns fans. Like, I'm just sick of this. I'm looking for a new exciting team. If you want to come aboard, that's fine. There's not many, but like, eventually this team is going to be good. And when that happens, we're going to be ready. And one day we're going to win a Super Bowl or we're going to die. Maybe both. Maybe we won't die. Maybe this team, maybe we are immortal and this team doesn't win a Super Bowl ever. God, I hope that we're not the last team to never win one. There's still 12. But like at some point, you want to leave that table and finally get the call up? It's been a minute since the last team to win their first Super Bowl was the Eagles in 17. It's been a minute. More importantly, the Chiefs didn't three-peat, and that makes me and you and everybody else feel pretty good about this. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for Julio Jones and what he did in his career. That doesn't mean that he's the best Falcon of all time. That goes to Matt Ryan. Kirk Cousins, we'll see what happens. Probably going to be here. Very excited about Michael Penix Jr. I'd love to get TJ Watt on this team. Not banking on it. And for the love of God, Terry Fontenot, don't screw up this draft. But yeah, man, like this has been a lot of fun here. I've really been enjoying these offseason stuff. Again, like once I come back from like my vacation here at the end of April after the draft, I'll probably get more people back on the show. Going to be kind of more of the heart of the dog days here in the offseason. But like, if you want to see somebody else from the Fan Side Network come on and talk to me, I'll be happy to have them on. I love to talk about more than just the Falcons. I love consuming the NFL from a national scope, but through the lens of a tortured Falcons fan. Yeah, also, before I get out of here, make sure to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Really, really helps the show grow, if you will. Again, like we've got a longer runway here. I've also been notified that I'm going to be on the, I think, Stacking the Box NFL Draft live show. Some of the Falcons are picking. Be sure to check that out. We'll see other people on there from the network. I'm sure Cody Williams will be on there talking Cowboys. A bunch of other people as well. So, like, all I know is it's not going to be as insane as it was with drafting Penix last year. It's amazing how far we've come in a year. And it's amazing that we're still in this together as parts of Dirty Bird Nation. It's going to pay off, but it's been a while, but we have hope, and that's all you can hope for at this point. Be excellent to each other. Have a great weekend. And this was the Blog and Dirty Podcast.